All right, number 11, adoption of the City of Yuba City's fiscal year 2019-2020 operating capital budgets and fiscal year 19 and 20 appropriations limit, presented by Robin Bertagna.
Good evening. Again, I'm pleased to be before you tonight to discuss adopting the city's fiscal year 19-20 operating budget, capital improvement program budget, and again, appropriations limit. Tonight's presentation will be focused almost entirely on the city's general fund, which is our biggest operating fund within the city. On May 28th, City Council met. We had a budget workshop where we presented extensive charts and graphs related to the city's budget and went through a great deal of detail answering questions and considering alternative paths of action in order to incorporate the needs of the city into a proposed budget. That full presentation is available on the CAFRs and budgets page of the finance page of the city's website. After the high-level overview tonight, my focus will be on the policy-level decisions that I'm requesting your consideration of that have been outlined in the staff report. For benefit of the public that were not at the budget workshop the other night, I did want to at least include the general fund revenue slides and expenditure slides. This shows you 10 years of actual history, along with the projected fiscal year 19 and the proposed fiscal year 20 revenues for the city. You can see that revenues are anticipated to hit an all-time high in fiscal year 20 proposed budget. That said, this does include a proposed transfer in of $500,000 from the city's Pension Stabilization Trust Fund in order to make an additional discretionary payment to CalPERS. With the pension benefit committee being formed, we're not going to take any action on this item at the present time until after it's brought back to council, but it is contained in the proposed budget. So with that said, the actual revenues to the city, not including this transfer in, total about $44.6 million, still our largest revenue for the general fund budget that we've ever had as a city. This is a similar slide for expenditures with 10 years of history, the projected year-end expenditures as submitted by city staff, department heads as part of the budget preparation process, and the proposed budget for fiscal year 20. It's broken down and has salaries and benefits in lighter gold and material supplies and services in a darker gold shade on the screen. The difference in the proposed fiscal year 20 revenues and expenditures represents the current budget surplus of $454,800. I know this slide has a lot of detail. I brought it up again tonight. I know you saw it all saw it last week, but I think it's important enough to put up here again. It shows you the historical projections for CalPERS, with the red line being the oldest. That came from our June 30th, 2014 actuarial reports. The June 30th, 2015 projections came in even higher. Those are the blue line here. We were very intimidated by that because it's huge expenditures. Then the June 30th, 2016 actuarial reports came out. That's the purple line. And then the June 30th, 2017 is the green line, even better. Still very, very high increases in cost. Between fiscal year 16 and fiscal year 25, it's projected to grow by 75%. Still extremely significant and very difficult for us to, as a city, to be able to afford. But our projections are updated annually every year when we get the new PERS actuarial reports. They will be out in July or August of this year. As soon as we get them, we start crunching the numbers and updating our projections to see what CalPERS' latest and greatest data is. This shows you the historical performance of the city's general fund with revenues in green and expenditures in red. You can see the deficit back in the earlier years, the surplus in more recent years, which is solely attributable to the fact that we had vacant positions, and then projections for the current fiscal year that will end June 30th of 2019 and future year projections. These forecasts do incorporate the PERS increases. And I did want to correct something I said the other night. I detailed and told you the annual increases. Those were on a citywide basis, not just the general fund share. So the general fund share is a little bit smaller. For fiscal year 21, it's about $615,000. For fiscal year 22, $542,000. Fiscal year 23, $428,000, a reduction in fiscal year 24 of $62,000, and then an increase again of $278,000 in fiscal year 25. So pretty significant increases. The increase that we built into the projected fiscal year 20 budget was an increase of $778,000 just for the general fund share of CalPERS. A big expenditure to have to build into the budget. So very, very significant. And that will continue for the next 3 years, and then it will go down just slightly the following year and then pick up again the year after that. The projections that you see for revenues here are built on the economy continuing to move along like it has been. We know that at some point will turn and will not continue to be positive like it has been. The revenue projections include a 3% increase in property tax revenues, 2.5% for sales tax, 3% in franchise fees, and 4% in hotel motel surcharge revenues. My point here is that it's going to be very difficult to absorb the PERS increases and other increased costs when revenues take a turn for the negative. So when that does happen, the city will need to reevaluate and react in a positive manner to reevaluate fiscal priorities to avoid deficit spending. Some of the items that are included in this budget, we've got $15,000 included for Downtown Business Association strolls, $15,000 for community contributions, and $10,000 for community events. In the past, community contributions have included contributions to the Memorial and Museum, the Acting Company, the Playseum, and the Yuba City Regional Arts Council. As far as community events, things that the city has sponsored in the past include Happy Landings at Beale Air Force Base, the Salvation Army Kettle Kickoff, Museum Trees and Traditions, the Chamber of Commerce Annual Dinner, Yuba City Stand Down, Farm Bureau Spring Fling, the Marysville Stampede, Officer of the Year, and Yuba City Farm to Fork event. Budget resolution items that are requested for council's consideration included within the staff report. There are capital acquisition items that are included in the proposed fiscal year 20 budget that we do not have sufficient funds set aside in our internal service funds. Included where we have shortages, staff is requesting a transfer from the surplus anticipated for this fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019 to put the funds into the internal service funds so that they're there and available as of July 1st to fund the purchases that we've included in the budget. The items include $268,800 for technology replacement items, $132,212 for vehicle replacement items. Additionally, the city has set aside impact fees for police and fire for the last 3 years because we were overexpended back when we built the Fire Station 4 and the Fire Admin Building and did the original police department expansion. We didn't have sufficient developer impact fee funds within each of those buckets of the overall developer impact fee fund, so they went deficit. When development didn't occur, staff reevaluated and council requested 3 years ago that we start reimbursing 10% each year from the general fund to the developer impact fee fund to cover those negatives until such time as development picks up and they're able to repay those funds. This would be the 4th year of such a transfer. The other item is a cleanup item. We had a reserve for operations that was a one-time money set aside previously for economic development initiatives back in November of 2015. The only amount that was used was to fund one-time expenditures for the Chamber of Commerce to form the Tourism Business Improvement District that ultimately formed the Yuba City Lodging Association. The remaining amount of $317,594 was later earmarked for SAFER grant match. Since the 9 fire employees funded under the SAFER grant fund are fully funded within the city's budget as far as expenditures, and 75% of the reimbursement is recorded as revenues, there's no need to leave this designation set aside in the city's general fund. Therefore, staff is recommending that we roll it into the regular unallocated fund balance. By doing so, it also helps the city maintain its 15% Healthy Cities Reserve Fund based upon the increase in appropriations proposed in this fiscal year's budget. Additionally, as discussed previously, the Water Capital Connection Fee Fund has a $1.8 million deficit cash balance because development hasn't occurred at the level anticipated originally when bonds were sold to make improvements at the water treatment plant back in 2005. The debt service payments were allocated 75% to new development and 25% to existing customers. Due to the decline in development, staff is requesting that we reallocate the historical debt service split to be 50% allocated to new development and 50% to existing customers. The reality is that since development didn't occur, the improvements that were funded are now depreciating and will not benefit future development at the time that the development occurs. The next slide shows you the breakdown of the $5.374 million that we are requesting to restate and reimburse the Capital Connection Fee Fund that has a deficit position from the Water CIP unallocated fund balance. The Water CIP fund has $5,954,874 available. This transfer would still leave $580,405 in this account, and it gets replenished each year when we close out the books at the end of the fiscal year. Anything in excess of 90 days working capital reserve gets transferred into the unallocated CIP reserve fund. So I'm not too concerned about depleting it down to $580,000 and putting the money back into the Capital Connection Fee Fund to offset the deficit cash there. So lots of moving parts and pieces. With that, does council have questions for me?
I'm assuming probably several. All right, so with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and skip to public comment and make sure that we get that done, and then we'll come back to council for questions and comments. I do have one. Do I have? Yes. From Rick Jemerson. If anybody else cares to step up, please feel free to queue up behind Rick.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilmen, members. I'm Rick Jemerson, resident of Yuba City. Pardon me. I first wanted to be here just to simply say thank you for what you've been doing. I think tonight it was unexpected, but from the December 28th meeting to what took place tonight, asking for clarification and such, and I know you've taken that move on a number of other matters, is really, really responsible of you, and I'm really enjoying seeing that type of change in accountability for all the employees and members that service this community. I appreciate it very much. I didn't have one until a few minutes ago. It sounded like my water rate's going to go up. So I'd like clarity on that, please. But bottom line is I've also appreciated, I've gone over the budget. I've notified a few of you at different times. I've been out of town so much, I've been unable to attend any of the meetings, including last Friday's homeless. But the idea that the budget was looked at this year in such a manner as to actually take a lot of things into consideration that perhaps hadn't been done to the detail before, as much as I appreciate staff and what you've done in the past, I really felt that this was a clearer look at what's going on. And noticing on the bar graph where we had the light yellow and the heavy dark color on employment and salaries and such leads right back to where consideration I brought up many times during the last election and other elections prior to, and that is that deficit of where we're going to be with CalPERS and what needs to be changed. We know other communities have done it and done it successfully. And I know you're fresh in. That's one of the reasons I'm saying, gee, 5-6 months in, you're doing a great job, guys. Really, really appreciate it. And the people I visit with and talk to, these are the things that come up. And it's duly noted. So thank you for that. CalPERS is still a big, big item. I'll be happy when you can turn around and seriously tackle it. I know you have a lot on your plate right now. But again, thank you for what you are doing. It's appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Jemerson.
As it relates to the city's water and wastewater rates, we'll be bringing that back. Diana Langley, our interim city manager, I believe will have a presentation for you on June 18th. We've been going back and forth with the rate consultant, and I think we're pretty close to final version at this point. But I didn't want to let this slide on the Water Capital Connection Fee Fund. I won't be here on the 18th. I'll be on vacation. So I did want to include that in the resolution for you to consider tonight as part of the budget adoption process as well.
Thank you. Mr. Trainer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Easy on the mister. I'm getting too old for that. I've got 3 issues I'd like to have you consider when you pass your budget. And I would like to think that the public would be advised as to what the answers should be or will be. First of all, our road repairs. How much money is going to be allocated to road repairs? And do you have the money? Our roads are terrible. I think they're worse than I thought they were. The water and wastewater, from what I know, which isn't very much, but most wastewater and water departments in all cities are moneymakers. That's good. I think it's wonderful that you can make money someplace. I would like to see the public to be aware of the profit structure that both the wastewater and the water department add to your overall budget, to add to your revenue, I should say. Because I think the public should be aware of the fact that every once in a while things are good. The last item I have, and I would love the public to be aware of this, is the unfunded liability. The public should be told how much interest you're sending into PERS in the next year. Don't talk about the unfunded liability, only talk about the interest on the unfunded liability. Because the different people that I've spoken to in town, oh, by the way, I'll go back on this a little ways. I think I've got 13 different cities, or people in 13 different cities that are phoning me up and saying, Phil, what are you doing now? I say, I'm not. My wife said I got to stay away from this stuff. But once again, everybody's got the same problem. On the unfunded interest. I would like to, when you pass your budget, go to the Appeal Democrat, put it in there what these 3 items are. I think the public has the right to know. I appreciate everything you're doing. I think you're doing a damn good job. I wouldn't have your job, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Does any other member of the public care to say anything at all? All right, we'll bring it back to council for questions, comments, and discussion, and eventual action.
Mine are more comments after any questions are asked by the council.
Questions?
Through the mayor, I do have one. Maybe it's, Robin, you can help me. Because one of the other items that we're going to be considering as well is the Affordable Housing New Haven funds. Is that part in the existing budget in here? Or is that a different funding source?
The affordable housing funds that you'll be considering, I believe, are the city's low moderate income housing funds that are remaining from the old successor agency for housing for redevelopment.
And that is an existing budget.
It's an existing fund that the city has. It's not actively being used, and there's nothing in the budget for this year for operating or capital that allocates those funds. Total, we have about $985,000, including anticipated interest to be received for this fiscal year.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because I know that that's an upcoming item that we have as well.
Yes, we don't have anything included in this budget to expend those funds.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Comment time. Whoever.
First, I would like to acknowledge the efforts of Mayor Harris and Councilman Shaw. For those in the audience that don't know, they formed a subcommittee that worked closely with staff. Would also like to acknowledge staff's efforts in the preparation of the budget for the workshop that was presented to us. I think that was a deep dive into the budget. That was something that we had requested that they do to get us new council people better acquainted with the budget, and I appreciate the efforts of all those who were involved with that. Also, to thank for the workshop. I thought it was very thorough. Hadn't had one of those in about 10 years, so it was kind of nice to see that again. Thank you, Robin, and again to the staff, Spencer, and Lynn, and all the rest of your team.
You're welcome.
The issues that, they're not issues. These are comments from one council person, and bear with me because they're on a go-forward basis. I'm interested in restoring the training accounts to the departments. I know that those were centralized. I don't know what the motivation was. I understand it was perhaps for some control, but I believe that they should be returned to the departments for those mission-specific training items, and the departments and their staff should be held accountable to manage those accounts rather than pooling them in one large account that the city monitors. I know that that's happening incrementally in some departments, but it's a little confusing, and I'll get to the reason why I make this request in a minute. I remain very concerned about requests that come from funds from outside organizations to us as they compete for what one of our standard goals is, which is the provision of essential services. There is a lot of things that have needs in our community. We had a homeless workshop, tremendous needs there. There are quality of life issues, tremendous needs there. We want to be great community partners, but we still have a primary mission of providing essential services to the residents of our city. And it's been my understanding, at least for the first 5 or 6 months that I've been up here, these things come at us all the time. I appreciate the fact that a lot of them are now being brought to us at the same time as the budget so that we can balance those against these essential needs. Professional development, there are professional development accounts set up in each one of the departments. I really would like to see those be, the funds associated with those be identified and used for professional development. I think over time they have been used to catch a lot of different things. And those other things aren't necessarily unnecessary, but I think that professional development should be professional development, and those other items that get stored in those accounts should be identified separately. And this is the reason why I bring up these requests, is transparency is going to be very important, especially as we move through increasingly difficult budget times. If we are truly managing the city's financial resources and reporting out to the citizens, we need to make sure that what we're recommending, what we're spending is available for the public to clearly see, especially if we have to get into a situation where revenue enhancements are going to be considered in the future. With that being said, again, I want to thank you, Robin. I know this was, I hate to say this, but I think this was your last budget for us. I say that a little choked up. I think you've done a fantastic job for the time I've worked with you and since then. And again, appreciate the finance team for the fine work I believe they've done as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
through the mayor. Robin and the rest of our city staff, thank you guys for all the work that you did, all the department heads. Didn't have much to say earlier for the simple fact that the mayor and myself have lived this process for well over a month. So we really know the numbers inside and out. To answer some of the questions that Mr. Trainer, brought up, there is a lot more need in this community than there is resources. So what we did through the budgetary process is look to where we can balance the needs in a physically responsible way and take care of our citizens. It's not a perfect world. There are certain times that we have to say no to this and yes to that. But it was a very, very thorough process. And I want to thank the mayor and the entire team at the city for walking through it because, Robin, you and I have talked. We got to know each other much better through this process and understand that we really do think a lot alike. I ask a lot of questions, but it's really trying to drive to the correct answer, the most prudent answer for what's best for our city. And I am very confident in the work that we did, Mr. Mayor. And he's so confident he left the room. All right. But with that, this is going to be a process. And Councilmember Boomgarden, going forward as we did with this process, we did make some changes so we could start consolidating some things. And this was year one, your last year, our first year of this new process. And I do look forward to this process year over year, because that's what we want to happen with our residents here in the city, to where they can look at this budget and they can understand we're spending this on training, we're spending this on roads. And, it's a thick budget. It's quite perplexing and intimidating if you're not used to dealing with it because it's multiple binders. But at the end of the day, we need to break it down in such a manner that we can relay to the general public that we are spending every dollar possible to take care of them in the most efficient manner necessary, that we're being prudent with the funds that we're entrusted with, and we're not wastefully spending anything. And that's where the transparency comes in. So again, thank you, Robin. Thank you. Thank you, all the department heads, chief. I just want to say thank you. It was a great process. So,
through the vice mayor. I think one of the things I have to say that I really appreciate the strength and quality of Councilman Shaw and Mayor Harrison willing to work effectively with our executive team, and particularly with Robin, Spencer, and Lynn, and also to include our interim city manager, because Diana had a strong, she really led the process in allowing for this to occur. Believe it or not, but three of us were elected and been in office 5 months, and so 5 months ago, I asked me where something is in our budgets. I would have absolutely no way to perhaps give you a secure, firm answer without having to go to Robin or someone. And this process, even though it was lengthy, it took many hours, but it was really important because the multiple workshops, we brought in opportunities for not just our executive team, but our first line management team as well, to be included in the entire process of understanding how we built the budget for this coming year. And on top of that, doing the workshops that were open to the public, which not physically do you have to be here to learn what's going on with the city, because everything, most of the time, it's recorded and videotaped, and you can see it at any time and go back and reference the things that we've worked through as a council. So as a council, we've done, we've really dug in and questioned and came to areas where we perhaps at times were not always close to each other in the decision, but we always move towards what's the best for the city and how we move forward. And so I truly appreciate that that's how we've done this as a council, even though, as I said, 3 of us have been here 5 months and looking at some difficult decisions, but we are. I believe that we're on the right track to find some other really creative ways of strengthening our financial situation. And in hopes of that will come in with the new city manager, that we're in that process as well. But I just wanted to share the fact that the community is a strong partner in the decisions that we make as council members. This is not taken lightly, and we really appreciate all of the input that we hear, not necessarily just at these meetings, but also at other times in the grocery store, anywhere else in the community. We really appreciate that. So thank you, Sean and Dave, council members, mayor, for all your good work. Thanks.
Thank you. Sir? Nope. Well, that brings us to the point of action.
I guess I get to do this. Through the mayor, make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the proposed fiscal year 2019-2020 operating budget, the proposed all funds budget summary for fiscal year 2019-2020 as attached, adopt a resolution approving the fiscal year 2019-2020 capital improvement program, project summaries by funding sources as attached to the resolution, and adopt a resolution approving the city's appropriations limit for fiscal year 2019-2020.
Very good.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second. So all those in favor, please.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, all opposed? That budget passes. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you. And thank you both for participating as the council subcommittee. It was a very different process this year, a learning experience for me as well, trying to anticipate what would help you to be able to make decisions as easily as possible. So it was a real pleasure, and I thank you very much.
Well, we thank you as well. You definitely put a lot of work to help put together the information to shepherd us through the process, and it was good teamwork, and I really appreciate yours and your staff's help.
Thank you. I couldn't do it without my staff. I've got incredible staff, so
Yes, you do.
thank you.
Thank you.